I have just read the response from Iran's so-called representatives. I don't like it. Totally unacceptable.
Here's what nobody is saying about this Iran deal. Trump isn't going to Tehran, he's going to China. That means the real pressure point may not be the Ayatollah or whoever is actually making decisions in Tehran right now. The real pressure point is Beijing. China needs Iranian oil moving, Iran needs China buying, and Trump is now standing between both of them and the Strait of Hormuz. That's the real trap. Iran thought Hormuz gave them leverage over America, but what if it actually gave Trump leverage over China? And I'm going to say this, and I want to be very clear. Who is honestly negotiating for Iran? We haven't seen the Ayatollah. He's the supreme leader, but he hasn't been to China. Our supreme leader, our president, is going. And behind the scenes, there are real questions about who is actually calling the shots in Tehran. I believe if the Ayatollah was, maybe the president would pick up the phone and talk to him, but that's not a question that's being asked right now. So let's just jump right into this. I want to show you, this is an article out of Reuters this morning. Trump dismisses Iran's reply to the peace plan. Oil jumps as the Hormuz closure persists. So over the weekend, there was a response by Iran to the demands, this ceasefire agreement from the United States. And Iran pushed back, and they basically just came back with the same response that they've had the entire time. They don't want to make any agreements. They don't want to bend at all. They don't want to make any adjustments to their plans. They want to keep enriching uranium. They want to keep control of the Strait of Hormuz. They want to keep charging ransom going through there. And that's just not going to happen. The president called it out as unacceptable. And here's his True Social post. He says that 47 years, it's been delay, delay, delay. He throws shade at the previous president, Barack Hussein Obama, and he talks about how much money that President Obama sent to the Iranians. And more importantly, he brings up the fact that the previous president, just prior to him, Joe Biden, didn't do anything either. The can has been kicked down the road the entire time. And for some reason, now it falls on the president of the United States, the current president of the United States, to do something about it. And I think the way that he has held back on this ceasefire agreement, or the way that he has stopped from taking any more unilateral military actions against Iran, is that he's understanding the fracture. He's understanding that this foreign minister, Aragachi, is not really in charge. He is more or less, I would say, almost a commercial. He is a puppet. He goes to China. He meets with their foreign delegation. He did not meet with Xi Jinping. That should tell you something, that he doesn't warrant enough street credit, enough weight in the larger picture to actually sit down face to face with the leader of China. He met with a little bit of a delegation, and then he went back, and then they've turned around, and now they are, pushing back on this ceasefire agreement. Now, here's the article coming out of the AP this morning, and this shows exactly what's happening. Iran and the U.S. are in an impasse ahead of Trump's China trip. So you can see this is downtown Tehran. They've still got the pictures up of the Ayatollah. There's no pictures of the new Ayatollah. But here it goes into more information about these two meeting. The president of the United States flies out today, leaving for China, for this one-on-one sit-down with Xi Jinping. And China needs this conflict to come to an end. They need the United States to remove the ability for China to not get the oil that they want. They need the United States Navy to open up the Strait of Hormuz, open that blockade, allow the free flow of ships, because they are hurting. They are hurting a lot. And China is starting to buy oil from the United States now. They cut off their oil whenever we removed the dictator in Venezuela, Maduro. So it cut off that supply of oil. The supply of oil now was limited to Iran. And there's some other countries that are getting involved here and some other countries that are starting to lose patience with Iran. And one of those is South Korea. And we're going to talk about that in a second. And South Korea just became the wild card on this, what I would say, stack of cards that Trump has to play. We're going to see here just now that the world shares are mixed and oil rises after Trump rejects Iran's response to the ceasefire. Now, we've talked in a previous video about how these oil companies are basically price gouging, or it seems like they're price gouging. I'm going to use the term price gouging. They are absolutely price gouging the American people because of this, because they know that they have the leverage, they have the strength, they have the only oil being sold right now in the United States. The president has also talked about actually pausing federal gas taxes. When there are supply constraints on commodities, prices surge. You saw it with fuel prices when the Strait of Hormuz was blockaded, and you're seeing it currently right now. And you know what else is a limited commodity? Gold. They mine it out of the ground. And when it's gone, it's gone. Governments can't just print it off, and they can't just produce it. And that's why everyone from central banks to savvy savers are diversified with gold, and myself included. I've reached a great partnership with Birch Gold. And if you've been thinking about it, this is the time to get in right now. Gold is at $4,600 an ounce. Now through May 29th, Birch Gold is giving a first-time gold buyer a rebate of up to $10,000 on qualifying purchases. For details and a free information kit on diversifying into gold, I want you to text my last name, Dykes, to the number 989898. Now, that goes into about 57 cents in Pennsylvania, about 58, 59 cents in California. So that would give some temporary relief for federal gas taxes across the United States. But at the same time, I don't see that as a long-term solution. I see it as a short-term solution. I also see it as a way of exposing some of these states for how much money that they are making off of men and women like you and me that get up and go to work and put gas in our cars, or these truck drivers that are buying diesel. And diesel, for some reason, is more expensive than gas, even though it's less refined. So that's one of the big questions there. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit here about this other wild card that just got thrown into the fray by Iran. And I think it was not, well, I think what they're doing is intentional. I just don't think they knew who they were messing with. The South Koreans live in a daily battle with that. I think it's the 32nd, 38th parallel, maybe 42nd parallel. Don't quote me on that. Somebody in the comments will know. With North Korea. So they have a next door neighbor that is a dictator, Kim Jong-un. And they understand. But South Korea is now condemning this attack on one of their cargo ships. You can see the name there, the Him Nemu. Okay. And I'm sure I pronounced that wrong for all the South Korean audience that's watching. But this was a Panama flag bulk carrier that was taking, I don't know what kind of materials, to South Korea, but they were attacked. And this is a South Korean operated tanker or shipping container that was headed to South Korea. And South Korea is now coming out and saying that they are about to come out with a military response. That this was hit in the engine room. The attack led to a fire in the engine room, in the vessel's engine room, disabling it. And now South Korea has just been thrown into the fray as an allegiance or an alliance with the United States. So the longer Iran keeps lashing out, the more enemies they build. And the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And that's what we're starting to see right now on a global stage with Iran. They're losing all leverage that they have. They have no real cards left to play. They're not in charge of the Strait of Hormuz. No matter what anyone tells you, they are not the control of that. They have a small piece of that, but there's nothing that can get outside of the Strait of Hormuz into the Gulf of Oman without the allowance of the United States Navy. And there's been some ships allowed, and we don't know all the conversations that have been had on those back channels over the radio traffic and some of those messages. So those are some of the things that we don't know about. Now, there's a massive report that's coming out this morning, and I say this is perfectly timed. And this is going to give the President of the United States some leverage here. This is an article by the New York Post, and this is making some hellacious allegations. There's a bank that is stationed in Hong Kong, or has an office in Hong Kong, HSBC. It's a very large world bank. And HSBC is now releasing documents, releasing information that Hong Kong helped bankroll Iran's network. This is a bombshell report right now because these two are about to sit down and discuss Iran. And I can guarantee you the president knew about this prior to his trip. It's a 26-page report by a committee called the Freedom in Hong Kong Foundation, and how Hong Kong fuels the Iranian regime. It alleges that dozens of Hong Kong-based companies have helped Iran evade Western sanctions while funneling billions of dollars into the hands of the IRGC and its proxies. Simply put, without Hong Kong's help, Iran would not have the money and the missiles that make it so dangerous. Now, that is a damning report. And if this holds true, this gives the president one hell of a lot of leverage to use against China. This gives him the ability to say, look, we know what you were doing, we know who you were funding, and it's time to stop. It is time to finish this. It is time for you to back off. It is time for you to allow the United States military to control this Strait of Hormuz and remove Iran from being a player at the table on this world stage. And let's get commercial traffic, world, international commercial traffic back to happening. And I believe that's what's going to happen right now. This other report here this morning, where are the carriers as of today, May the 11th? We have 20 warships enforcing the blockade in the Middle East. And this goes into showing exactly who is there. We've got multiple destroyers. We've got multiple LHAs, LPDs. We've got 2 aircraft carriers. There's an aircraft carrier here. This is a aerial photo of the USS George Bush sailing into the Arabian Sea just a few days ago. This is the Gerald Ford. They left going back to the United States for kind of a refurb, a refit is what we would call that. This is the Teddy Roosevelt. This is in the Pacific. This is probably off the coast of Hawaii, monitoring things around Taiwan. But so we've got enough firepower in that area. We have enough United States military and Navy assets in the area to maintain control. The Tripoli, the Boxer, the Bush, the Lincoln, and all the other things that go with these carrier strike groups, these battle groups. We have the firepower there. Now it's just whether or not the president wants to use it or whether he wants to hold off until his meeting with Xi Jinping. The other thing that came out this morning is the Houthis in Yemen are now warning the U.S. that it will face the consequences after President Trump rejected Iran's latest proposal. So now you have the Houthis, and here's a great photo of them and a very good representation of their military capabilities. They have, looks like 4 dudes on I'm going to say that's a Suzuki. You got 4 dudes with AKs on a Suzuki wearing sandals. That should represent the entire Iranian regime. This should represent the Houthi rebels. And I don't know if I'm the president of the United States that I'm really worried by this image. You let me know in the comments what you think about this. But I believe people like Ricky Carmichael would be very proud here. And if you know who Ricky Carmichael is, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But this is how far we've come. The president is ignoring Tehran. He is ignoring the IRGC. He is going to China to sit down face to face with Xi Jinping and discuss with him whether or not they want to keep buying oil from Iran. And if so, then maybe they should stop supplying Iran with some equipment, some of that equipment that was found on that HMS or one of the container ships called the Tuska. We still don't know for sure what that was. The president said he knew what it was, and he said it was some important equipment related to China. So that's a couple of things that we really need to think about as the president loads up and heads to China today. And like I said before, no one has seen the Ayatollah. Is the Ayatollah actually making the decisions? I'm not saying that there is no Ayatollah, but who is behind the decision making in Iran? I believe you're going to pull back the curtain, kind of like the old Wizard of Oz, and see it's a little guy. And I think the little guy is Xi Jinping. And if that's the case, the president of the United States is headed straight to the head of the snake. And maybe, just maybe, we see some real actions on the heels of this trip. And if that is the case, if Iran suddenly changes their tune, then all of you watching can say, I told you so, when you bring up the fact that China trapped Iran. And it was a trap that they didn't expect to happen. I want to say thank you for watching. Tune in, smash the like and subscribe button. If you want to become a member on the channel, scan this little QR code right up there at the top. Leave your comments down below. I try to read them all. I want to get some feedback from all of you. Do you think China is pulling the strings in Iran? Do you think Iran is actually in control of their own destiny? Are they making their own decisions? It doesn't feel like it to me, but I know most of you are much smarter and probably more right than I am. I'll see you in the next one.